In 1970, you would have been what, 5?
That's fun. He's all into it.
Central went to the state finals that year. 70 or 71 one of those. And if you remember the name, like Kim Kaufman, John Bragg.
I remember Johnny Bragg.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you this
Good.
evening?
Are you ready for tomorrow? All the snow is coming in.
I better get some bread and milk.
You better.
I never eat bread. I never
There's
drink milk.
probably not any bread or milk. It's only supposed to last a day, but everybody will buy every loaf of bread that's out there.
They said the shelves were looking pretty empty yesterday.
You know, the days where we would have many days of snow days, I mean, that just typically isn't happening anymore. But people still pretend it's going to.
Appreciation.
Yeah, but I enjoyed the house. Yeah. He's got that personality.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, I've got 5 o'clock. We'll call ourselves to order. Please join me in a moment of silence. Bishop O'Neill just told me that Muncie Central grad, who some of you may know, John Bragg, I think class of 70 or 71, died today. So keep John in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you. If you join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. We'll call the roll. I'm present. Dr. O'Neill.
Present.
Mr. Heater is out of the country. Dr. Bales.
Present.
Mrs. Watasha Barnes Griffin.
Present.
Mr. Irvin.
Present.
Mr. Jim Lowe.
Present.
Okay. We have an English learners presentation from Kelsey.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to present some information to you all. I know that last meeting Chuck was able to give kind of a preview of some of the exciting things that we're doing, and so I'm excited to dive a little bit deeper into that. So yeah, with our multilingual students and programs. I told Cindy I could do this and I'm not doing it. Okay.
Take care of it.
Okay. So before I dive into the fun stuff, I just want to go over a couple words that you'll hear me use, and I don't want it to get too confusing. So the first one is students with EL status. So these are students who have gone through an identification process, and it's been determined that they have an influence other than English and in their lives, and that language influence impacts their access to general education. So this is different than just a multilingual student. There's a very specific status of student that is protected under Supreme Court legislation. So students with EL status. Then we have our multilingual students. Our multilingual students is exactly what it sounds like, students who know more than one language, whether that's through cultural knowledge of the language or familial knowledge of the language, multilingual. Then we have our newcomer students, and this is one that you'll hear me say a lot, and it can get a little confusing. So newcomer students, they might be EL students, they might be multilingual, but they don't have to be. A newcomer student is a student who has been in the US for less than 3 years. So a student who's coming to us from Canada wouldn't be identified if their primary language is English, wouldn't be identified as a student with EL status. If they only speak English, wouldn't be identified as a multilingual student, but they would be a newcomer student if they've been in the US for less than 3 years. And then you'll see the abbreviation ENL. That refers to the accredited class that we now have at the middle and high school level that is called English as a New Language. You might have heard or be more familiar with English as a second language. ENL is a more inclusive way to say that because we found that often our students, English isn't their second language, it's their third, fourth language. And so English as a new language is more inclusive of all of our students. Okay, perfect. So I couldn't save it to the end. I had to start off with this because I'm just so excited. So our growing enrollment numbers, we're gonna see it here, but the teachers in the classroom and me working with the families have felt it. I feel like every month that we have our directors meeting, I keep telling them, we're still enrolling about one family every single week, new to the country, and every meeting I'm saying the same thing over and over. But then when you see the data behind that, it's so exciting. So let's look back at October of 2021. October 1st is the month of October is one of our reporting months for state data, so it's a little easy to capture these moments. So we reported 84 students with EL status. That's great. That's great. That's fantastic. Jump ahead, 1 year's difference. Just 1 year's difference, October of this year, we reported 126 students with EL status. That's a massive growth. A massive growth for our community, right? We're not talking about Indianapolis, this is Muncie, right? So that is about a 50% increase in our students with EL status. That's across the board in K-12. Yeah, okay, are you ready? There's one more, okay. Just the same school year from October to January, we are now sitting at 180 students with EL status. Again, that's not students who are multilingual, that's not including all of them. That's students who have gone through that identification process and it's been determined that they are students with EL status. That is a 114% increase in 15 months. And what that means is that not only do we see the demographics of Muncie shifting and changing to meet the needs of the community and the economic development that the community is experiencing in small and large ways, it also determines where our programs are going, what kinds of programs that we're offering for our students, and how we're developing those. I'm just so excited. Okay, so we're sitting at 180 EL students. Okay, let's go to the next one. So this is the central message that my work with the mayor's office, my work with the nonprofit that we work with that is brand new this year, called the Refugee Alliance of Delaware County. This is our, what we're seeing is that immigrants are making Muncie stronger. We saw a lot of families leaving Muncie, and we're seeing a lot of families coming back to Muncie, but they're different families. They're multilingual families, multicultural families. And it's really exciting to be a part of this shift in culture. Okay, so let's look at some more data points. So this is a chart of the newcomer students. So remember, that's students who have been in the US for less than 3 years, just for this school year, where our students are coming from. Not surprisingly, we know that we had a large amount of Afghan students join our community. So they're our top number. But what might be more surprising are Mexico isn't one of the top countries on there. That's a shift from even 3-4 years ago. Our next tier of countries that we're seeing students from are Nigeria and India. It's amazing. And oftentimes these families, they don't have a connection to Ball State necessarily or the hospital. These are families who are moving here because they know other people in Muncie who love living in Muncie and they want to come be a part of this community too. That's massive. One data point that you can pull from here, we have just last week, we are still continuing to enroll students from Afghanistan. Now, they're a different kind of student. These are students who, what I refer to as like they're the second wave of migration students. So they were initially placed by the US government in another city and state. And then because they heard about Muncie through family, friends, or some other connection that they have, they moved here. So we enrolled a student from Afghanistan just last week, him and his family. And we've enrolled about 5 new Afghan families this school year who again were placed initially somewhere else, heard about Muncie, and wanted to come be a part of this community. That's also true. You look a little ways down, we have 3 students who moved here this year from Russia. They're from 2 different families to Muncie. Again, no connection to the university or to the hospital, and the families didn't know each other until they moved to Muncie. And so I was like, how did this happen? They lived about 8 hours away from each other in Russia, but they both moved here to Muncie. Now that family has been taking some of the adult English classes that we offer, I've been able to ask, and it turns out they have a family friend that they've known for over 20 years who lives in Muncie. And so when these 2 families were granted visas through the embassy, they contacted this friend who said, yes, Muncie's the place, and they moved here with their families to Muncie. It's so exciting. Okay, let's look at some more. So this is now that was just a snapshot of our newcomer students. Now we're pulled back to our all of our K-12 students across languages. So these are not just students with EL status, not just students who are newcomers. This is all of the students who are multilingual in our K-12 schools. As you can see, not surprisingly, Spanish continues to be and continues to grow as the primary language, home language of our students. Pashto is right behind there, and as we continue to see our Afghan families themselves grow, I know that that number will continue to grow with it. And then you might be surprised by some of the other languages there that we are continuing to see a huge growth in. Over 90 of these students that you see represented in this graph are newcomer EL students, so they have both of those statuses. And like I said before, we are still continuing to enroll about 1 new family per week who are coming to us from another country. I just got word today that we have a family who moved to Muncie from Brazil who's going to enroll with us this week. So it's an exciting job to be in because I never know where our next family is going to come from. And as you can see, like we are continuing to grow our numbers throughout the school year. Okay, this is just a little snapshot. So we have about 230 multilingual students. Like I said before, about 180 students with EL status. Our dual language immersion program is now K through 5, and we have about 150 students enrolled in that program. 80 students with refugee status, and that is a even more specific type of newcomer student. 29 different home languages, 17 current multilingual MCS teachers. That's included our dual language immersion teachers and so many more. And we have 12 EL teachers who are teachers of record for our students. And there are 11 MCS schools serving our EL students, including our virtual academy and the YOC. These are some of our programs. As I mentioned before, we have our English as a new language accredited course at the secondary level. And one of the goals that I had for myself working with Dr. Reynolds this year was to adopt a curriculum for that course so that our students and our teachers were equipped with a scope and sequence of how to build those those English language development skills. And we have a drop-in resource, so not only are students getting that course through their schedule to go there, they also have the option to, if they're struggling in a math class with the language portion of it, they can drop in to work with the EL teacher in addition to the class. We now have a full-time EL teacher working at Northview Elementary. Northview Elementary has our highest amount of students with EL status. And so this year we were able to have a full-time EL teacher that works just at that school. So the amount of just like intentional growth that he can bring to our students there has been amazing to witness. And then of course we have our Spanish dual language immersion class or program that is growing, and we are working diligently at the secondary level to determine what this is going to look like next year when our 5th grade class moves into middle school. There's not that many dual language immersion middle schools in the country, much less in Indiana. And so Ben Williams at Northside is excited to be on the forefront of developing this program and kind of building the bridge as we walk on it a little bit. But like I showed you before, we have a lot of talent in the district. And so finding ways to utilize the talent we have to support our multilingual programs, and especially our dual language program. Okay. One thing that you might have heard of it referred to, as the seal of biliteracy, which was initially what it was proposed as. It was adopted this year by Indiana, but it's called the Certificate of Multilingual Proficiency. Again, we're seeing this language be more inclusive of students who are learning more than just 2 languages. It's not just English and one other language, but multilingual students, and celebrating that. Eric Grimm, the director of secondary, and I have been working closely to have a test, kind of like an SAT type of test, specifically for language. So, for example, we have a student who is going to take it in Pashto, and once he passes that, which I have full confidence that he will, then when he graduates in May, he will have, in addition to his diploma, this certificate of multilingual proficiency. This will allow him to not only be able to show to a potential employer, potential university that he is multilingual, but really there's some backing to it. You have to be able to pass one of these exams that the state of Indiana has approved for it. So it just opens up a lot of opportunities for our students who are multilingual to showcase that knowledge and really be able to back it up with a certificate. Again, this is a new program. This is the first year that Muncie is going to have this option for our students. Another program I wanted to highlight this year, some of our newcomer EL students from Afghanistan participated in the Fire and Rescue program at the MAC Center. This has been a phenomenal experience for them and for the teacher and their cohort of students as well. A fun fact is that the job of a firefighter is not the same in Afghanistan as it is here. And so it was a major learning curve to get the students and their families to buy in to trying this program out. And as you can see here, the students have absolutely loved it. And there's four of them in this program, and they all passed their Fire and Rescue Certification 1 test a couple weeks ago. So it has been phenomenal, and partnering with the MAC Center to get some of these career readiness skills has been just so important for our students to see what they're working towards, what they can do with this education. This summer, through a grant from IDOE, we were able to put on an intensive English summer program for our Afghan students. This was a Monday through Thursday, almost all day marathon of teaching English. We had about 46 students total who came to us diligently every day. We were able to provide them through Muncie Schools with free breakfast and lunch. And we had teachers, K-12 really, MCS teachers who who gave their time over the summer to come in and work with these students. And it was amazing to watch some of our middle school teachers learning how to teach the fundamentals of reading, which is not typically something that they do, and then being able to say, I'm going to apply this to my social studies class next year. I never thought about how rhyming and phonics went together for reading. So I think it was a great experience for both MCS teachers and our Afghan families alike. And I just wanted to highlight our involvement with Ball State. We've been working really closely with Ball State's TESOL department to welcome their students, their pre-practicum and practicum students. Oftentimes they're working one-on-one with our newcomer EL students who need kind of the most intense language supports. They have also volunteered their time working in some of our after-school events and programs. And then we also have student teachers in the dual language program who are fluent in Spanish and getting their elementary education license, working with our dual language program. We also have been working with the Spanish department at Ball State, so students who aren't potentially maybe interested in teaching, but getting them into our program so that they can see what they can do with their Spanish language in a really meaningful way. And then some cute pictures. Our bulletin or newsletter that goes out, it's called Somos Muncie. In Spanish, Somos means we are. And there's some teachers and students on there that are just super cute for you to enjoy. Thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them.
So, any questions for Kelsey? I think that's remarkable. I mean, 180 students. It's what, 4 times what we had just a few years ago. And I'm assuming, based on what you've said, that you have, you're building resources and capacity. I'm assuming space is an issue in some of your locations. Is that an accurate assumption?
Yes.
Well, obviously, whatever we can do administratively to address that as hopefully the program continues to grow. What I think is amazing is that graph you did on the numbers and the folks coming into the community this year because they have heard from others who have located and been served by MCS about their positive experience. I think that's remarkable.
Yeah.
So thank you for what you're doing there. Any additional questions?
Well, I have a comment, if you
Sure,
don't mind.
please.
So, I'm just so grateful that Kelsey is in the position she's in. And I just really want to recognize how she goes over and above to make sure that every student's needs are met. She is remarkable with building relationships with families. And we are just very thrilled that you're working for us, Kelsey.
Thank you so much. I feel the same.
Yeah, I think one of the brightest days, and there've been many, but one of the ones that sticks out is when I heard that you were going to rejoin us. And I was just tickled pink. So
Me and you both.
to use a phrase from the 1940s. So anything additional? So thank you so much again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dr. K.
Great. Well, if you notice, you have blue bags in front of you. It is January as Board Appreciation Month, and we do appreciate all of you, so thank you. And I have to give a shout out to Chartwells for helping us with Board Appreciation Month. Several good things to report. Southside Middle School has one team who qualifies for the state finals with robotics. This year, we actually have multiple teams, 6 of them at Southside. And so last year, we only had 1. So we're growing that program, which is great. And the other teams have other opportunities to qualify. So we hope we end up with more than just 1 at state finals. And we hope we are able to make it to nationals again this year. At the last board presentation, Robert Scaife talked about security checks. They have begun. Everything is going well with those, and so that's good news. People are calling and saying, is school closed tomorrow? We are expecting e-learning if we get the weather that they're saying is going to be coming in. Devices were sent home today. Students had their e-learning schedules. So we're trying to signal to our families that that certainly may happen. But I'd like to at least see 1 snowflake before we decide that we're going to cancel school. And so we'll be watching the system and we'll make the call as soon as we can. So I'm anticipating early tomorrow morning we'll be able to make that announcement. Something else that I have to give Andy credit for this, we all know about the great program that we have at the MAC. And this came out in the Indianapolis Business Journal that our MAC, Muncie Career Center, is listed as one of the largest tech and vocational ed programs in Indiana. So we're rated at number 13. Last year, we weren't even on the list. So we're glad that we're on the list so we can highlight, the great things that we're doing to support our students. And then to showcase a couple of our students, Titus Water, who's at the high school, a senior, he's undefeated in wrestling, 137, lost 0. He's ranked sixth in the state, at the heavyweight division, and he's a conference champ. And then Isaac Musgrove, he is in the 126-pound weight. You could tell I don't know tons about wrestling. So, okay, 126 pounds. I remember those days, but not anymore. And he is the conference champ also. And this weekend is sectionals. So we're very proud of our students, and I'm sure their parents are proud of them as well. That's it for me, if any of you have any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Hay? Yeah, in my brief foray into wrestling, and it was brief, I was at 145, and that was a while ago.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to talk about my record. I think I was defeated. Almost, if not entirely, every time. Both physically and emotionally and spiritually. So with that, we have one public participation request form, Chelsea Pendergraft. Ms. Pendergraft, if you'll state your name, and it's my understanding you are here to talk about school care.
Yes.
Well, it's really
Okay. Hello, good evening, members of the board. My name is Chelsea Pendergraft. I am a parent of a special needs kindergarten who attends Grissom Elementary School. I am calling for the immediate termination of Brittany Charles due to her neglect for children with special needs and the abuse allegations that are still under investigation by the Muncie Police Department. Also for Grissom's failure to document proper IB protocol when they have used it. Also the neglect that Grissom has only called me twice out of the 60+ incident that has occurred with my special needs child, as well as the IEP committee at Grissom Elementary on November 28th, who denied my request for a one-on-one aid. They stated that it's up to the principal and a budgeting issue. Also, the only solution the district has is to move my daughter to another school that is better to equipped with her and her special education needs. This has also happened to other children at Grissom Elementary. I hope the board hears me and takes this into consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Pendergraft. We appreciate it. At this time, we are on to the agenda, the consent agenda. The items on your consent agenda are the approval of minutes from January 10th, personnel issues, travel for conference, donations, claim approval and authority to prepay, and then approval of the consent agenda. Would again thank our donors who are listed in the documents in your board packet, and specifically Southside Panther Pantry shows donations in the most recent period of $9,245, and just an amazing amount of local support for the pantry and the work that they do. So thank you to all of those donors for their remarkable generosity during the Christmas season, specifically as it concerned the Christmas project and the winter backpacks. Those of you who donated, thank you so much. Any questions concerning the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Thank you. We are on to the Special Education Cooperative Agreement. Ms. Smithson.
Good evening, everyone. So we have been, over the past semester, meeting as a superintendent's council for the Delaware Blackford Special Education Co-op, and they were wanting to review our co-op agreement this year, as it's been a few years since we did that. And I had given you a copy of that in your board packet. And then since that time that I gave you the one to Cindy for the board packet, we sent out billing for this past semester. And then another language issue came up with the shared costs. So I gave you a new copy tonight, and it's highlighted in red. It starts on page 5. So you can see exactly where the changes are to that. I'm just going to kind of briefly go over those, and then you can ask questions if you need to do that. So originally, under the section A in section 6 of financial provisions, letter D had stated that we were going to have one of the shared costs would be that we were including like special evaluations, and we were including things such as the, sorry, let me look here, such as the behavior specialist services, special evaluations, and occupational and physical therapy were also going to be shared costs. So we talked a little bit about how that probably wasn't fair to the districts that are using those services a lot more. One example was one of our districts had a student move in, and they needed a special evaluation for that student in a different language. And so they felt like, well, we should pick up the cost for that because that was our student. That shouldn't be a shared cost among all the cooperative schools. And then also for occupational and physical therapy, that should be based on the services rendered in the IEPs. So what we did was we took out those other additional services from shared costs. We left the blind, low vision, and deaf, hard of hearing teacher as a shared cost because at any time you could have a student move in that had that eligibility category, or you might just need consultation on a student of whether or not they needed that eligibility category or an evaluation. So there's a lot of reasons to share those two teachers as a cost, but we went ahead and pulled those out to the non-shared costs, which is on page 6, number 4, part B. And those extra things that had originally been included in shared costs are now its own number 4 there. And then I changed the language in part C, payment of costs, to include that change as well. So if anyone has questions about that small change that we needed to make on that, please let me know.
Okay. Mr. Jerome, have you reviewed the changes?
Yes, I was directly involved with Jenny in the WebEx with all the superintendents and representatives from all the schools, plus Dr. K was in on that WebEx, and we made the change on the adjusted billing to reflect that delineation between the PT and OT and blind, low vision. So we made the correction to match this type of language change.
And I would also say David Day reviewed this agreement.
Okay. And are we satisfied that this fairly remunerates or reimburses Muncie Community Schools for their service as the director of the co-op?
I believe it does.
Okay. And I know, so we have, 7 schools in the co-op at this time, is that correct?
Yeah, 7 districts.
And there had been, I think, some discussion by some of the schools of delivering services on their own, and I assume that they looked at this and determined that they would stay within the co-op.
Yes, for the past year, the area superintendents, we've been meeting to look at different models that different school corporations use across the state. That more and more cooperatives are breaking up and local schools are trying to provide services on their own. But the agreement was this was a good model for us. It's working, and we wanted to continue with it.
And I didn't see a term. Is it at will or year to year?
I believe in the very first page, it says January 2023 to January 2028.
I see. At the top.
And we can review it sooner if the superintendent's council would like
Okay.
to do that, but we at least need to review it again in 2028.
And there is statute if someone wants to pull out of a co-op or if you want to
Right.
dissolve it.
Correct.
There's many processes you have to follow.
Correct, yeah.
Absolutely. I believe the thing that really helped them decide this was the right way to go was I think many of them would feel like they're getting a really good option for
Services.
preschool here.
Yeah.
Because we do take all the preschoolers from all the county schools except for Blackford. They have their own program. But I think that preschool was kind of the deal breaker for them. They really like being able to have Muncie preschool.
So did any of the 7 members of the co-op express concerns about the services provided by MCS?
Oh, no.
No,
Okay,
they did not.
okay. Any questions, any additional questions?
Just curious, has the agreement always shown that the individual school provides the transportation? We have
Yes.
never provided that transportation.
Right,
Okay,
right. School
curious.
corporations bus their kiddos here if they come here.
got it. Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions, concerns? Had a chance to review it? Okay. Thank you for your work, all of you, on getting this. I do think it is a remarkable testament to Muncie Community Schools that we have 7 diverse districts relying on MCS for this length of time to provide these services, and that speaks highly of the work that you do. So,
And also, just as another side note of good news, because I like to give good news, we passed our co-op audit recently, so no findings.
very good. Okay. So,
I like to end on a good note.
so thank you to you and your team.
All right, thank you.
And we'll need, I assume, a motion in a second unless there's any additional discussion.
I move approval.
Okay, I think Latasha was in front.
Okay.
So
Second.
we'll count her as the motion, and we'll count Mr. Irvin as the second, because Latasha was quicker.
In that.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you again. We are on to dialogue of the board and future recommendations. Tomorrow, I think, will be an interesting day, would say, for those folks watching at home and parents. Clearly listen to your media outlets and stay safe. And obviously, Dr. Kwiatkowski will be working with her team to get notice out at the earliest possible hour of the plans for tomorrow. I can remember vividly as all the way through high school even, on days like this where snow was predicted and laying in bed just absolutely praying for the snow to actually start and getting up and looking out the window. So I assume kids still do that, don't they? We will hope that they get a snow day tomorrow, just for the benefit. And I can't let this go on because Dr. Reynolds always has something. It's socks, and tonight is just that massive coffee mug. So
My first one today.
it's very cheery and it's got Mickey Mouse. So thank you.
I'm sure that costs
Mr.
a lot,
Klotz,
too.
any media inquiry? Okay. And any additional inquiries from the board? Okay.
One thing, I just want to say on behalf of the Martin Luther King Dream Team and the MLK Day Community Committee, thank you, Muncie Community Schools, for your participation. On Saturday, 14th, we handed out 120 certificates to students for their living out their citizenship, living out the ideology of Dr. King, so thank you. And then on Monday the 16th, you all were present to honor those students, those high school students, top students. So just thank you for Muncie Community School always being involved in what's happening in our community and around that MLK Day.
And so do we have something, does the Dream Team have something coming up here in February? What's the date of that?
4th.
4th? Okay. Is that going to be at Minnetrista this year again? Okay. Okay, anything else during February for Black History Month scheduled?
Well, there's various schools will be having activities.
And North Side, we have to, that's first time ever, Ben Williams is having a Black History program where he's, a musical program, right?
Okay, good,
You're
good.
playing it, right?
Well, Mr. Williams also informed me via email this week that the 100 Push-Up Club is close and they want to do a demonstration. So I think we're gonna have a board meeting where we have the people who've done 100, we're gonna have them here to do it. And I might do one with them.
I'm sure I've done 100 over my lifetime.
So with that, would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening. Be safe.